Chapter 8 The Battle for the Village. A thick, inky mist rolled in from the outskirts of the village, obscuring everything in its path. Out of the mist, strange, misshapen figures emerged, their forms constantly shifting and writhing. Alex and Ben stood in the center of the village square, ready for the attack. Alex held the now empowered stone tightly, while Ben readied his energy, charged fists. The first wave of dark creatures lunged forward. They were like shadowy wolves, with fangs that dripped a corrosive black liquid. Alex sent a blast of light from the stone towards the wolves. The light struck one of them, and it dissipated into nothingness. But more came, bounding over the rooftops and through the narrow alleys. Ben leaped into the air and landed a powerful punch on another creature. The impact sent it flying back, but it quickly recovered and joined the fray again. As they fought, Alex noticed that the dark force seemed to be drawn to the stone. The creatures were constantly trying to get closer to him. "Ben, cover me!" Alex shouted. "I think I can use the stone to break the source of this darkness." Ben nodded and moved in front of Alex, fending off the attacks with a flurry of kicks and punches. Alex closed his eyes and focused on the stone. He could feel a connection to the dark force, like a hidden thread. He followed the thread with his mind, trying to find its origin. Suddenly, he opened his eyes. "It's coming from that old temple on the hill," he said. Without hesitation, they started to run towards the temple, leaving the village behind. The dark creatures followed them, howling and screeching. When they reached the temple, it was in ruins. The walls were crumbling, and there were dark symbols carved into the stones. In the center of the temple, there was a large, black crystal. It was pulsating with a dark energy, and it was the source of the shadowy creatures. "Now what?" Ben asked, looking at the crystal. Alex held up the stone. "I'm going to try to destroy it." He aimed the stone at the crystal and sent a powerful blast of light. But the crystal absorbed the light and grew brighter. The dark creatures were closing in on them. Ben fought them off as best he could, but he was starting to tire. Alex tried again, this time pouring all of his energy into the stone. The blast was stronger, but the crystal still held. Just when it seemed hopeless, Alex remembered the vision of the woman with the stone. He tried to channel her power, imagining her strength flowing through him. The stone glowed with a new intensity, and a different kind of energy shot towards the crystal. This time, the crystal began to crack. With a final, earth-shattering explosion, the crystal shattered into 1,000,000 pieces. The dark creatures let out a collective wail and disappeared. Alex and Ben collapsed to the ground, exhausted but victorious. As they caught their breath, they heard a voice. It was soft and feminine, but also powerful. "You have done well, young heroes," the voice said. They looked up, and there, in a faint glow, stood the woman from the vision. "Who are you?" Alex asked. "I am the keeper of the stone's power," she replied. Long ago, I was tasked with protecting this world from the darkness. But I was betrayed and had to hide the stone. She floated down to them. Now, you must continue my work. There are other dark forces in this world, and they will stop at nothing to gain ultimate power. Alex nodded. We will do what we can. The woman smiled. I know you will. But first, you must rest and recover. There is a place nearby where you can do so. She pointed to a small cave on the other side of the hill. Alex and Ben thanked her, and as they made their way to the cave, they couldn't help but wonder what other adventures awaited them. Once in the cave, they found it to be warm and cozy. There were soft moss beds on the ground, and a small stream of clear water flowed through one corner. They lay down, and within minutes, they were fast asleep, their dreams filled with images of battles yet to come and mysteries yet to be solved. When they woke up, they felt refreshed. They decided to set out again, following the direction that the woman had hinted at. As they walked, they came across a group of travelers. They were a motley crew, with some carrying weapons and others carrying strange, magical artifacts. Hello there, a burly man with a beard said. You two look like you've. Chapter 9, Encounter with the Travelers. The travelers eyed Alex and Ben with curiosity. The burly man stepped forward, his hand resting on the hilt of a large, double-edged sword. You two seem to be on a journey. Where are you headed? He asked, his voice gruff but not unfriendly. Alex exchanged a glance with Ben before replying. We're following a lead to stop some dark forces. What about you? The man laughed heartily. Well, we're a ragtag bunch of adventurers. Seeking fortune, glory, and all that. Maybe our paths will cross for a while. Among the travelers was a young woman with long, flowing hair and a staff topped with a glowing orb. She stepped forward and looked at Alex intently. I sense a powerful energy within you, she said. That stone you carry, it's not of this world, is it? Alex was a bit taken aback. How do you know? She smiled enigmatically. I have my ways. But be careful, such power can attract unwanted attention. As they talked, Ben noticed that one of the travelers, a thin man with a sly look, was eyeing the stone greedily. Hey, Alex, Ben whispered. Keep an eye on that guy. Alex nodded subtly. The group decided to travel together for a while, sharing stories and supplies. The travelers told tales of ancient ruins filled with treasures and of powerful magical beasts that roamed the land. After a few hours of walking, they came to a crossroads. One path led into a dense forest filled with an eerie silence, while the other led up a mountain pass with swirling mists. The burly man scratched his head. Which way should we go? The young woman with the staff closed her eyes and seemed to be in deep thought. The forest holds secrets, but also great danger. The mountain pass is less predictable. What do you think, Alex and Ben? Alex looked at the forest. I feel like the forest might be related to the dark forces we're after. But it's a risk. Ben nodded. Let's go for it. We can handle whatever comes our way. The travelers agreed, and they entered the forest. The trees were ancient and gnarled, their branches reaching out like twisted arms. The ground was covered in a thick layer of fallen leaves, and the air was heavy with the smell of decay. As they walked deeper, they heard strange rustling sounds coming from all around them. Suddenly, a large, multi-eyed spider dropped down from a tree. Its 8 legs were as thick as a man's arm, and its body was covered in a hard, black exoskeleton. The travelers quickly drew their weapons. The burly man charged at the spider, his sword swinging. But the spider easily dodged and shot out a stream of sticky web, trapping him. Alex and Ben leaped into action. Alex sent a blast of light from the stone, hitting the spider in one of its eyes. It let out a screech and turned towards him. Ben ran up and sliced at the spider's legs with his energy, charged fists. The spider stumbled but quickly regained its balance. The other travelers joined the fray, with the young woman sending bolts of energy from her orb and the sly-looking man using some kind of throwing daggers. The battle was intense. The spider fought back viciously, spraying more webs and lunging at them with its fangs. Just when it seemed like they were getting the upper hand, more spiders dropped down from the trees. There were dozens of them, surrounding the group. Alex knew they had to act fast. He focused the power of the stone, creating a shield of light around them. The spiders hesitated, but some of the more aggressive ones charged at the shield. The shield held for a while, but Alex could feel his energy waning. Ben, we need to find a way out of here, he shouted. Ben looked around frantically. There. He pointed to a small clearing in the distance. Alex increased the power of the shield and started to move towards the clearing. The travelers followed closely behind, fighting off the spiders that tried to break through the shield. When they reached the clearing, they thought they were safe. But then, the ground beneath their feet started to shake. A large, black hole opened up in the center of the clearing, and a powerful suction force started to pull them in. Alex and Ben struggled to hold on, but the force was too strong. One by one, they were all sucked into the hole. As they fell, they passed through a tunnel filled with strange lights and sounds. Finally, they landed in a large, underground chamber. The walls were lined. Chapter 10 The Mysterious Chamber. The chamber was bathed in a soft, eerie glow that seemed to emanate from nowhere. Alex groaned as he picked himself up from the cold, stone floor. "Everyone okay?" he called out, his voice echoing through the vast space. One by one, the travelers replied, though some were clearly more shaken than others. The burly man had a cut on his arm from the spider attack, and the young woman with the staff had lost her orb, which was nowhere to be seen. As their eyes adjusted to the light, they began to take in their surroundings. The chamber was circular, and in the center stood a large, pedestal-like structure made of a strange, pulsating crystal. "What is this place?" the sly-looking man muttered, his eyes fixed on the crystal. Before anyone could answer, a voice boomed through the chamber. It was deep and resonant, as if it were coming from all around them. "You who have entered this sacred place, you seek answers. But first, you must face the trials." Alex stepped forward. "What trials? And who are you?" The voice laughed, a sound that sent shivers down their spines. "I am the keeper of this place. The trials will test your worth, your courage, and your bonds." Suddenly, the walls of the chamber began to shift. 3 doors appeared, each with a different symbol carved into them. The first door had a symbol of a sword, the second a book, and the third a heart. The burly man pointed at the door with the sword. "I'm a fighter. I'll take that one." The young woman looked at the door with the book. "Knowledge is my strength. I'll choose this one." Alex and Ben looked at each other. "The heart symbol, it might be related to our bond," Alex said. "Let's go through that one." The sly-looking man was left with no choice but to follow the burly man. As Alex and Ben approached the door with the heart symbol, it slowly opened. They stepped inside, and the door closed behind them. The room they entered was filled with a warm, golden light. In the center was a large pool of water, and floating on the surface was a small, white flower. As they got closer, Alex noticed that the flower was emitting a soft, musical note. Suddenly, images began to appear in the water. They were memories, but not their own. Alex saw a young couple, deeply in love, being torn apart by a powerful force. The man was taken away to be trained as a warrior, while the woman was forced into seclusion. The images changed, showing the man, now a great warrior, fighting against evil. But in his heart, he always yearned for the woman he had left behind. Finally, the images showed the two of them being reunited in a moment of great sacrifice. Alex and Ben were spellbound. "What are these images trying to tell us?" Ben asked. Just then, a figure emerged from the water. It was a woman, but she was not of this world. Her form was translucent, and she had a sad but wise expression on her face. "These are the memories of a love that transcended time and space. Your trial is to understand the true nature of love and sacrifice," she said. Alex frowned. "But how do we do that?" The woman pointed at the flower. "You must each take a petal and hold it close to your heart. Then, you will see." Alex and Ben did as they were told. As soon as they held the petals, they felt a strange energy coursing through their bodies. Images of their own lives flashed before their eyes. They saw the times they had protected each other, the sacrifices they had made for one another. They also saw a vision of a future where they would have to make an even greater sacrifice to save the world from the dark forces. Alex looked at Ben. "I understand. Our bond is our strength, but it may also require great sacrifice. Ben nodded. We're in this together, no matter what. With that, the woman in the water smiled. You have passed the trial. Return to the main chamber and await the others. As they left the room, the door opened, and they found themselves back in the circular chamber. The burly man and the sly-looking man were already there, looking a bit worse for wear. The burly man had a few more cuts on his body, and the sly-looking man seemed to be missing something. Where's the young woman? Alex asked. Just then, the door with the book symbol opened, and the young woman walked out. She was holding a small. Chapter 11, The Revelation. The young woman with the staff held a small, glowing scroll in her hands. She looked a bit haggard, but her eyes were filled with determination. What happened in there? Ben asked. The young woman took a deep breath. I had to answer questions about ancient wisdom and knowledge. Some of them were about the history of this land, and others about the nature of magic itself. She unrolled the scroll slightly. This scroll contains some insights that might be useful to us. The burly man grunted. Well, I had to fight a bunch of shadowy warriors. They were tough, but I managed to beat them. He flexed his muscles, though the cuts on his body made him wince. The sly-looking man scowled. I got tricked. There was a chest full of gold and jewels, but when I reached for it, a trap was sprung. I lost my lucky dagger. Just then, the voice that had boomed earlier returned. You have all faced your trials. Now, the truth shall be revealed. The crystal pedestal in the center of the chamber began to glow brighter. Symbols and runes appeared on its surface, and they started to form words. Alex stepped closer, his eyes fixed on the crystal. It's talking about an ancient evil that was sealed away long ago. And it seems that it's starting to break free. The young woman read along with him. The seal is weakening, and only those who have proven themselves worthy can find the means to strengthen it again. The burly man crossed his arms. So, what do we need to do? As if in answer, the crystal pedestal split open, and a small, black cube emerged. It was pulsating with a strange energy, and a wave of coldness spread from it. The voice said, "This cube holds the key. But beware, for it also attracts the minions of the evil one." No sooner had the words been spoken than the air around them grew colder. Dark shadows began to seep through the cracks in the walls. Here they come, Ben hissed. The sly-looking man was the first to react. He reached for the cube, but as his hand touched it, he let out a scream. His hand seemed to be burning, and black veins started to spread up his arm. Alex quickly pulled him away. Don't touch it directly. There must be a way to handle it safely. The young woman stepped forward. Maybe my staff can help. I'll try to create a shield around it. She chanted a spell, and a blue glow surrounded her staff. She then extended it towards the cube, and the glow seemed to wrap around it partially. But the shadows were getting closer. They took on the forms of grotesque creatures, with sharp claws and glowing red eyes. The burly man charged at the nearest creature, swinging his sword with all his might. The sword sliced through the shadowy form, but it quickly reformed. Alex and Ben joined the fray. Alex used his speed to dodge the attacks of the creatures while Ben tried to find their weak points. The young woman continued to focus on keeping the cube protected. But the strain was showing on her face. Suddenly, Alex noticed that the cube was reacting to their emotions. When he thought of his friends and the need to protect them, the cube glowed brighter, and the shadows seemed to recoil slightly. Guys, focus on your positive emotions, on what we're fighting for, he shouted. The burly man roared, his eyes filled with determination. The sly-looking man, despite his injury, also tried to concentrate. As they all focused their positive feelings towards the cube, it began to emit a powerful, white light. The light pushed back the shadows, and for a moment, the chamber was bathed in a pure, cleansing glow. But the respite was short-lived. The shadows regrouped, and this time, they seemed stronger. The young woman was starting to lose control of the shield around the cube. "We need a better plan," Ben said, as he ducked under a swipe from a shadowy creature. Alex had an idea. "The pedestal. Maybe there's a way to use it to seal the cube properly." He quickly made his way towards the pedestal, avoiding the creatures as best he could. Once there, he noticed a small indentation on the pedestal that seemed to be the right size for the cube. "Guys, I think I found the solution. We need to get the cube onto this indentation." The others heard him, and they started to fight their way towards the pedestal. The burly man led the charge, using his body as a shield. Chapter 12 – The Seal's Power. The burly man fought with all his might, clearing a path through the shadowy minions. His muscles bulged as he swung his massive sword, sending waves of energy that dispersed the dark forms. "Come on!" he roared, his voice echoing through the chamber. The sly-looking man, despite his pain, followed closely behind. He used his agility to dodge the remaining creatures and make his way towards the pedestal. Alex and Ben were not far behind. Alex was using his quick thinking and magical abilities to fend off the attacks. He sent bolts of light from his hands, which seemed to have an effect on the shadowy beings, at least temporarily stunning them. The young woman struggled to keep the cube shielded as she made her way towards the pedestal. Her forehead was covered in sweat, and her breathing was labored. Finally, they reached the pedestal. Alex took the cube from the young woman's weakened shield. "Everyone, focus your energy on me," he said. The group closed their eyes and channeled their power towards Alex. He could feel the energy coursing through him, making his body tingle. With a final push, he placed the cube into the indentation on the pedestal. The moment the cube fit into place, the pedestal began to shake violently. Runes and symbols on its surface started to spin and glow with an intense light. A powerful force radiated from the pedestal, pushing back the remaining shadowy creatures. The creatures let out ear-piercing screeches as they were being repelled. The light from the pedestal grew brighter and brighter, until it was almost blinding. When it finally subsided, the cube was gone, and in its place was a large, intricate seal. The voice that had been guiding them earlier spoke again. "Well done. You have managed to strengthen the seal for now. But beware, the evil will not rest." The walls of the chamber began to rumble, and cracks started to form. "Time to get out of here," Ben said. They quickly made their way towards the exit of the chamber. As they ran, they could hear the sounds of the chamber collapsing behind them. Once outside, they found themselves in a beautiful, but strange, forest. The trees were tall and slender, with leaves that glowed softly in different colors. The young woman let out a sigh of relief. "We made it out alive." The burly man sat down on a nearby rock, exhausted. "But what now?" "We strengthened the seal, but for how long?" The sly-looking man was examining his still, injured hand. "We need to find a way to fully destroy this evil, not just keep it sealed." Alex nodded. "I think there might be more clues in the surrounding area. This forest seems to be connected to the seal in some way." As they were discussing their next move, a small, winged creature fluttered down from one of the trees. It had a body like a hummingbird but with the face of a small elf. "Hello," it said in a high-pitched voice. Everyone was taken aback. "You can talk?" Ben asked. The creature nodded. "I am a sprite of the forest. I have been watching you. You have done well, but there is more to be done." "What do you mean?" Alex asked. The sprite fluttered around them. "The seal you strengthened is just one part of a greater whole. There are other seals, in different places, that also need to be protected." The young woman frowned. "How do we find these other seals?" The sprite landed on a branch. "I can guide you, but it will not be an easy journey. There are many dangers in this world." The burly man stood up. "Well, we've come this far. Let's not back down now." The sly-looking man also agreed. "If there's a chance to truly end this evil, we have to take it." So, with the sprite as their guide, they set off into the strange forest. The path was narrow and winding, and they had to be careful not to trip over the roots that seemed to reach out like grasping hands. After a while, they came across a small clearing. In the center of the clearing was a pool of water. The water was so clear that they could see the bottom, which was covered in small, glowing stones. The sprite hovered over the pool. "This is a place of power. You may find it useful to rest here and gather your strength." Alex walked up to the pool and looked at his reflection. He noticed that his eyes were filled with determination. "Maybe we should take a moment," he said. The others nodded and sat down around the pool. Ben dipped. Chapter 13, The Pool's Secret. As they sat by the pool, the group began to feel a strange sense of calm wash over them. The glow from the stones at the bottom of the pool seemed to seep into their very beings, rejuvenating their tired bodies. The burly man closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "I haven't felt this refreshed in a long time," he murmured. The sly-looking man dipped his hand into the water. "There's definitely something special about this place. It's as if the water itself is filled with energy." The young woman was looking around the clearing, her eyes taking in every detail. "I wonder if there's more to this pool than just a place to rest." Just then, the sprite fluttered down and landed on the edge of the pool. "You are correct," it said. "This pool holds a secret that could be of great use to you on your journey." Alex leaned forward, his interest piqued. "What kind of secret?" The sprite hovered above the water, its wings flapping rapidly. "If one is worthy, they can draw out a portion of the pool's power and use it to enhance their abilities." The burly man grunted. "Worthy? How do we know if we're worthy?" The sprite tilted its head. "It is not for me to say. The pool will decide." Ben stood up and walked to the edge of the pool. "Well, there's only one way to find out." He reached his hand towards the water, and as his fingers touched the surface, a soft glow surrounded his hand. The glow slowly spread up his arm, and his eyes widened in surprise. "I feel stronger," he said. The sly-looking man was next. He placed his hand in the water with a bit more caution. This time, the glow was a different color, a deep purple. He seemed to be in a bit of pain at first, but then his expression changed to one of concentration. When he withdrew his hand, he flexed his fingers. "I can sense things more clearly now. It's as if a veil has been lifted from my mind." The young woman stepped forward. She took a deep breath and placed her hand in the water. A gentle blue glow surrounded her, and she smiled. "I feel more in tune with nature," she said. Alex was the last one. He placed his hand in the water, and the glow that surrounded him was a bright, golden color. It seemed to be the most intense of all. Suddenly, images flashed through his mind. Images of ancient battles, of powerful beings, and of a final, great confrontation. When the glow faded, Alex opened his eyes. "I saw something," he said. "I think it was a vision of what's to come." The burly man looked at him. "What did you see?" Alex shook his head. "It was too much. But I know that we're in for a difficult fight." The sprite fluttered around them. "The pool has given you a gift. Use it wisely. Now, we must continue on our journey to find the other seals." They left the clearing and continued deeper into the forest. The trees seemed to grow even taller and more densely packed as they went. As they walked, they heard a strange rustling in the bushes. The burly man stopped and raised his sword. "Something's there," he said. Suddenly, a large, furry creature with sharp claws and tusks burst out of the bushes. It let out a menacing growl and charged towards them. The burly man stepped forward and met the creature head on. His sword clashed against the creature's tough hide, but it only seemed to anger the beast. The sly-looking man quickly formed a spell and sent a bolt of energy towards the creature. It hit the beast, causing it to stumble for a moment. Alex and Ben also joined the fight. Alex sent a wave of force from his hands, pushing the creature back, while Ben tried to find an opening to attack. The young woman was looking for a way to help from a distance. She noticed that there were some vines hanging from the trees. She concentrated and used her found connection with nature to manipulate the vines. The vines shot out and wrapped around the creature's legs, tripping it up. The burly man took this opportunity to deliver a powerful blow with his sword, and the creature let out a final roar before collapsing. They all took a moment to catch their breath. "Good work," the burly man said. The sprite fluttered over. "There will be more challenges like this on the way. But you are growing stronger." They continued on their path, more cautious now. After a while. Chapter 14, The Mysterious Ruins. The group pressed on through the thick forest, the air growing heavier with an otherworldly presence. The trees thinned out, and before them loomed a set of ancient ruins. Massive stone pillars, weathered by time, stood in a haphazard array. Some were cracked, with vines snaking up their sides, while others seemed to still hold a faint, pulsating energy. The sprite flitted ahead, its glow dimmed slightly in the shadow of the ruins. "This place holds many secrets," it whispered, its voice carried on a gentle breeze. The burly man, sword still in hand from the previous encounter, surveyed the area warily. "Looks like trouble to me. We should be careful." The sly-looking man, his eyes darting from one stone structure to another, nodded. "Agreed. There's something not quite right about this place." Alex stepped forward, his senses on high alert. He could feel a faint hum in the air, as if the ruins themselves were alive. "Let's split up and search for any signs of the seal." They spread out, with Ben moving towards a large, broken archway. As he approached, he noticed strange symbols carved into the stone. "Hey, come look at this," he called out. The others gathered around him. The symbols were intricate, with curves and lines that seemed to tell a story. The young woman tilted her head, trying to make sense of them. "It's like there's some kind of warning or instruction." The sprite landed on the archway and studied the symbols closely. "These are ancient markings. They speak of a power that lies within, but also of the perils that guard it." Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet began to shake. Stones shifted, and a hidden passageway was revealed in the center of the ruins. The burly man looked at the others. "Well, I guess this is our way in." They descended into the passageway, the air growing cooler and more musty. Torches flared to life along the walls, casting an orange glow. As they walked, they came across a series of chambers. In the first chamber, there were shelves filled with ancient tomes. The sly-looking man rushed over and began to leaf through them. "These could be valuable," he said. But as he pulled one out, a trap was triggered. Arrows shot out from the walls. Alex quickly erected a shield of energy, deflecting the arrows. "Be more careful," he snapped. They moved on to the next chamber. This one was filled with strange artifacts. Statues of unknown beings stood in the corners, their eyes seem. Chapter 15, The Inner Sanctum. In the chamber filled with strange artifacts, they cautiously skirted around the statues. The sprite flitted from one object to another, its glow fluctuating as if reacting to the ancient items. Suddenly, the sprite stopped in front of a small, black cube. This is different," it said, its voice filled with awe. The young woman reached out to touch it, but Alex stopped her. "Wait. We don't know what it does." Just then, an echoing laugh filled the chamber. "Foolish mortals, thinking you can simply take what you find here." A shadowy figure materialized in the center of the room. It was humanoid, but its form was indistinct, as if made of smoke. The burly man growled and charged forward, his sword swinging. The shadowy figure merely laughed again, and a wave of dark energy sent the man flying back. Alex stepped forward, his hands crackling with lightning. "Who are you?" he demanded. "I am the guardian of this place," the figure hissed. "And you shall not pass." The sly-looking man, always one to seek an advantage, noticed a small indentation in the wall near the cube. He motioned to Ben. "Over there. Maybe it's a way to disable this thing." Ben nodded and crept towards the wall while the others engaged the shadowy figure. Alex launched a series of lightning bolts, which were absorbed by the figure, who then retaliated with more dark energy blasts. The young woman tried to use her healing abilities to assist the burly man, who had struggled back to his feet. As Ben reached the wall, he inserted his dagger into the indentation. There was a click, and the shadowy figure seemed to flicker. Alex seized the opportunity and unleashed a powerful blast of energy, sending the figure reeling. It let out a scream and dissipated into nothingness. With the threat gone, they focused on the cube again. The sprite hovered over it. "I sense that this cube is the key to reaching the inner sanctum, where the seal might be." They followed the sprite's lead and, using the cube, managed to open a hidden door at the back of the chamber. Beyond the door was a long, narrow hallway. At the end, they could see a faint, golden light. As they approached the light, they were met with a powerful force field. The burly man scowled. Another obstacle. But Alex studied the force field. "I think I can find a way through. Just give me a moment." He closed his eyes and sent out his spiritual sense, probing the field. After a few tense moments, he opened his eyes. "There's a weak point. If we all attack it simultaneously, we might be able to break through. They nodded in agreement and took their positions. On my mark, Alex said. 3, 2, 1. They all unleashed their most powerful attacks at the weak point. The force field shimmered and then shattered. They stepped into the inner sanctum, a large, circular room. In the center was a pedestal, and on it lay a glowing orb. The sprite's glow brightened. This is it. This must be related to the seal. But before they could approach the orb further, the room began to shake violently. A deep, rumbling voice filled the air. You think you can simply claim this power? You must first pass the final test. And with that, the walls of the inner sanctum began to close in. Chapter 16 The Final Test. The group braced themselves as the walls inched closer. The pressure in the room was palpable, and the air seemed to thicken with a sense of foreboding. Alex quickly assessed the situation. We need to figure out what this test is and pass it before we're crushed. The sprite flitted around the room, its light dancing erratically. I can't sense any obvious clues, it said, its voice tinged with worry. The burly man, his eyes fixed on the closing walls, growled. We don't have much time. Maybe it has something to do with that orb. The young woman nodded. It's possible. But how do we interact with it? The sly-looking man, always quick-witted, suggested, maybe we have to use our powers in a specific combination. Alex considered this. It's worth a try. Let's each channel a bit of our energy towards the orb and see what happens. They spread out around the pedestal and began to send their energy towards the glowing orb. At first, nothing happened. But as they increased the intensity, the orb began. Chapter 17 The Orb's Response. As their energies coursed towards the orb, it began to spin slowly. A strange hum filled the air, and the walls seemed to halt their advance for a moment. The sprite, its glow pulsing in time with the orb's rotation, said, "It's working. But we need to keep it up." The burly man grunted, pouring more of his brute strength, infused energy into the mix. Alex focused intently, his lightning crackling around his hands as he directed the power towards the orb. The young woman closed her eyes, sending out a wave of pure, healing energy that somehow seemed to balance the more aggressive forces. The sly-looking man, his eyes shrewd, added his own energy, which was more like a subtle manipulation of the ambient spiritual power in the room. Suddenly, the orb shot out a beam of light that struck the ceiling. A series of symbols began to appear on the walls, glowing brightly. The sprite exclaimed, "These symbols are a code. We need to decipher it." The sly-looking man squinted at the symbols. They seem to be related to the elements. Look, there's a symbol for fire, and there's one for water. Alex nodded. Maybe we need to adjust the energy we're sending based on these symbols. They quickly adjusted their energy output according to the symbols on the wall. As they did, the orb's spin increased, and the light it emitted grew stronger. The walls, which had started to move again, now slowed to a crawl. But just as they thought they were making progress, a powerful counter-force pushed back against their combined energies. The burly man roared in frustration. "We're so close!" The young woman bit her lip. "Don't give up. There must be something we're missing." Alex closed his eyes again, his mind racing. He focused not just on the symbols but on the overall flow of energy in the room. Suddenly, he opened his eyes. "I understand. We need to create a harmonious blend of our energies, not just match the symbols." They took a deep breath and tried again. This time, they let their energies intermingle and blend, creating a seamless flow towards the orb. The orb responded with a blinding flash of light. When the light subsided, they saw that a hidden compartment had opened beneath the pedestal. Inside was a small, ancient book. The sprite flew over to it. "This is it. This book must hold the key to dealing with the seal." But as they reached for the book, a new danger emerged. A group of dark-robed figures materialized in the room, their eyes glowing with malevolence. One of them sneered, "You think you can just take that book? It belongs to us." Chapter 18 – Confrontation with the Dark-Robed Figures. The air in the inner sanctum grew thick with hostility as the dark-robed figures surrounded the group. Their leader, a tall and gaunt man with a cruel smile, stepped forward. "Hand over the book, and perhaps we'll let you live," he hissed. The burly man spat on the ground. "You'll have to pry it from our cold, dead hands." Alex stood protectively in front of the pedestal. "You won't get it that easily." The sprite flitted nervously between them. "We can't let them have the book. Who knows what they'll do with it?" The young woman and the sly-looking man also readied themselves for the fight. The dark-robed figures wasted no time. They launched a series of dark energy attacks, their spells hurtling through the air towards the group. Alex countered with his lightning, creating a barrier that deflected some of the attacks. The burly man charged forward, his sword swinging with great force. The young woman used her healing abilities not only to tend to the wounds of her companions but also to create a shield of pure, positive energy that nullified some of the dark magic. The sly-looking man, meanwhile, searched for an opening in the enemy's formation. He noticed that one of the dark-robed figures seemed to be the source of the more powerful spells. He signaled to Alex. "Focus on that one over there. If we can take him out, their attacks might weaken." Alex nodded and redirected his most powerful lightning bolts towards the designated figure. The dark-robed man tried to dodge, but the lightning was too fast. It struck him, and he let out a scream as he crumpled to the ground. As expected, the intensity of the attacks from the remaining figures lessened. But they were far from defeated. The leader of the dark-robed figures let. Chapter 19 – The Final Battle and the Unveiling of Truth. The leader of the dark robed figures let out a howl of rage as his comrade fell. His eyes glowed an even deeper shade of malevolence, and he raised his hands, summoning a thick, inky black mist that began to spread throughout the inner sanctum. The sprite flitted about, trying to see through the mist. "This is bad. We can't let them get the book in this chaos." Alex's lightning illuminated the area in short bursts, allowing them brief glimpses of their enemies. The burly man continued to swing his sword blindly, hoping to strike something. The young woman sent out waves of her pure energy, trying to dispel the mist. The sly-looking man crouched low, his mind working on a way to counter this new threat. Suddenly, from the mist, a barrage of dark projectiles shot towards them. Alex quickly formed a lightning cage around the pedestal with the book, protecting it as best he could. The burly man took a hit on his shoulder but grunted and kept fighting. "We can't give up." As the battle raged on, Alex noticed something strange about the leader's movements. There was a pattern to his attacks, as if he was following some kind of hidden script. He focused his senses, ignoring the immediate danger for a moment. And then he saw it. There were faint symbols on the leader's robes, symbols that seemed to be connected to the ones on the walls of the sanctum. Alex shouted, "He's using the power of the sanctum itself. We need to break his connection to it." The sly-looking man nodded. "I think I know how. But we need to work together." He signaled to the young woman, and they began to send out a combined wave of energy that was designed to disrupt the flow of power between the leader and the sanctum. The burly man provided cover, his powerful swings keeping the other dark-robed figures at bay. The leader, realizing what they were trying to do, fought back with all his might. But Alex joined in with his lightning, adding to the pressure on the leader. Slowly but surely, the connection between the leader and the sanctum began to fray. The inky black mist started to thin, and the leader let out a pained scream. With a final, desperate effort, the leader lunged towards the pedestal, trying to grab the book. But Alex was ready. He sent a massive bolt of lightning that struck the leader square in the chest, sending him flying backwards. The other dark-robed figures, seeing their leader defeated, hesitated for a moment and then fled into the depths of the sanctum. The group let out a collective sigh of relief. The sprite flew over to the book. "We did it. Now, let's see what this book has to say." They gathered around as the sprite opened the ancient book. The pages were filled with faded text and strange diagrams. The young woman studied the text closely. "It seems that this book contains the true history of this place. And the seal, it was put in place to contain an ancient evil." The sly-looking man frowned. "An ancient evil? What kind of evil?" As they read further, they learned that long ago, a powerful and malevolent force had threatened to destroy the world. A group of powerful cultivators had banded together to seal it away in this very place. The book also contained instructions on how to strengthen the seal and ensure that the evil remained trapped forever. Alex looked at his companions. We have to do what it says. We can't let this evil out." They all nodded in agreement. But as they began to prepare to follow the instructions in the book, the ground beneath them began to tremble. The sprite looked up, worried. "What's happening?" Suddenly, a crack opened in the floor, and a dark, smoky energy seeped out. It was as if the ancient evil was trying to break free despite their efforts. The burly man grabbed his sword. "We're not going to let it out without a fight." Alex focused his lightning once more, but he knew that this might be their most difficult battle yet. The young woman began to chant a powerful incantation, her hands glowing with a bright light. The sly-looking man worked quickly, trying to find a way to use the energy of the sanctum to their advantage. The dark energy from the crack grew stronger, forming into strange, shadowy creatures that lunged towards them. The group fought back with all their might. Alex's lightning struck the creatures, sending them back into the crack, but they seemed to reform quickly. The burly man's sword sliced through the